Good morning and welcome to the DecisionPoint Trading Room. My name is Erin Swenlin, and I am here with my father, Carl Swenlin from DecisionPoint.com. And we're going to get you ready for the week. We're going to look at some charts that we think you should look at going into this week and really just give you an overall sense of where the market's going as we get started. I do have a few things to say. Well, first of all, it's November 13th. I always forget to tell you the date at the beginning of the program. But the Q&A box is where you're going to put your symbol requests and your questions. And then the chat box is for you to talk amongst yourselves. And my moderator, I believe, is in the room today. He will be welcoming you into the chat room. If you do use the chat room, just remember that when you write a comment, to use the drop-down menu above the comment to send it to everyone. If you'd like to join us live, the links will be below the YouTube video. Go ahead and sign up and you can join us at noon Eastern time. All right, without further ado, it is time for you to take the spotlight, Dad.
Okie doke. Let's try to get focused here. Matriarch has been texting me. This is the current status of our intermediate term trend model signals and long-term trend model signals. Intermediate term, means the 20 versus the 50 EMA. The shorter one, when it goes above, it's a buy signal. When it goes below, it's either neutral or sell, depending on whether it's happening above the 200 EMA. The long term is the 50 and the 200 EMA, and when the 50 is above the 200, it's a buy signal. When it's below, it's a sell signal. This is the buy signals, the famous
the golden cross and
the golden cross, and the sell is the death cross. Those are not my names. That's been around for decades. So as you can see, we're really not doing fantastic yet. We've got a lot of weakness even in the intermediate term. Longer term, it's a little better, but still it's very spotty. So just keep that in mind, and I will now do another share.
When things get going, I mean, we've seen that board get very, very green. So it is kind of a surprise to see it not completely green, given the strength of the rally we've been seeing. Yeah.
It's, this rally is persistent, but it has a lot to do with the Magnificent Seven. And that's a big problem. Okay, I was watching the Barron's Roundtable show on Fox Business on Friday, and they were talking about the 60-40 portfolio as it having a big problem in recent years. That 60-40 portfolio means you have 60% of American stocks and 40% of American bonds. One of the reasons they like this is because, and I'm not an expert, but I think one of the reasons is that bonds tend to rally when stocks are failing and vice versa. So that it keeps some sort of balance that way. Not only that, of course, bonds will pay a dividend, and if you keep them for their duration, you get your principal and your interest back at the end of the term. The big problem with that 60-40 portfolio is for the last 4 years, bonds have been falling. They've been declining. This is about a 40% decline on bonds since the 2020 top. So they were talking about how it's going to be coming back around again, that's that 60-40 is going to start working. I would disagree on that. We might get a rally. As I said, we might get a rally here. This is a falling wedge, and we expect a upside breakout from a falling wedge. But that rally could last 1 or 2 years and not be able to recapture this rising trend line. So, and it's just a normal case in a bear market. Again, my opinion is that bonds are going to be in decline for many, many years, and there will be rallies, and people are going to think that we've returned to the good old days, the prior 40 years when everything was, when the bonds were rallying. I think the bonds are going to be declining for many years to come. But again, you're going to have periods, years even, when they will rally, but the long-term trend is going to be down. That's my opinion. Yeah, here's a TLT. It's in a falling trend. That's the all-time high. And again, we seem to be having a little rally here. Here's your falling wedge. Looking at the 10-year yield, we've got a rising trend line, and this is a departure phenomenon. When it departs from the trend too far, it tends to correct back to it. Simple as that. And here we had a couple of parabolics, and we recaptured that rising trend line, and it appears to be rallying off of that. Here is the yield. Here's a yield chart showing short to long-term yields. It's inverted, and that's a problem. You can see that the longer-term yields have been falling for the last for several weeks, I guess you would say, and but the shorter durations have been pretty steady and holding their own. And I'm going to switch subjects now. Someone had recommended NSA, which is a REIT for storage facilities. And the reason being it has a yield of over 7%. That's great. I love it. But first of all, when you get a recommendation, look at how it's the trend is. This is a weekly chart. The trend is down, and at some point it will rally, and that will probably be a good time to get in. But I think there's probably more to go down before that happens. But the main thing I wanted to point out is while you have a 7% dividend, notice that the dividend itself, 2.22, is greater than the earnings per share, which is $1.08. So when you have a high dividend or a high yield, you want to make sure that the earnings will support the dividend. In this case, it won't. Now, there may be some other story associated with this, but this is the first cut. You look at that and you decide, well, maybe there's more research needs to be done on that. All right, let me get down to the market here. Okay, we're getting a rally above this declining tops line. And last week on Thursday, we had a breakdown, and I thought we were going to continue down, but it reversed. And again, I think this is primary your Magnificent Seven stocks rallying, and today it's still kind of flat. It's only up a quarter on the SPY. So seems to be breaking above this declining tops line, but it's really due for a little bit of a relief consolidation at least. I wanted to look at the weekly chart. The weekly chart of the SPY, we've got a declining pattern. It's actually, we could call it a flag, I think. And it seems to be breaking out of that flag right now. The weekly PMO is kind of unsteady, but it is rising. And we shall see. Right now, we've got this top below this top. But in order for that to be a downtrend, we've got to get a bottom below this bottom. So that's the potential. We've had this period of advance, and it's probably time for a cycle to have some decline here. Looking at the dollar, basically we've got a kind of a triple bottom in here. Maybe we'll just imagine it's a double bottom, and we've fulfilled the projection of the breakout. So it looks to be kind of topping here, and maybe it's going to head down again. PMO is, and this is a weekly chart, PMO is slowing its advance. With the dollar being a little sluggish, we would expect gold to be up, and it is today. That's looking good. Okay, the monthly chart. Again, we've made 3 attempts to exceed the all-time high and have failed. Right now, we've kind of got a breakout above this declining tops line, and it's pulled back to it. Again, the PMO is rising, so that's fortuitous, and possibly at this time it will manage a breakout. Gold miners are not doing much better than gold, and right now it's had a pullback to this declining tops line even after the breakout. Under the hood here, very, very skinny in the way of stocks above their 20, 50, and 200 EMAs. The Golden Cross Index is at 25%, and the Silver Cross is at 39%. So that's room for improvement. Crude oil, we use USO. This is a weekly chart, and basically we've got a rising trend line, but taking this top into consideration, we need to exceed that before we can say that it's a full-fledged rising trend at this point, because at this point we've fallen out of that rising trend from here. We've done interest rates. Here's Bitcoin, long-term. You can see a lot of congestion overhead. This rally is primarily due to talk about BlackRock, and I think there are other large organizations trying to set up ETFs for Bitcoin. And here we are at the Magnificent Seven stocks. Apple has a falling wedge, and it has broken out of that as we would expect it to do. We don't know if it's going to move to exceed its all-time high. Getting ready, it looks like, to break through this resistance at this level. Let's go to a weekly chart. Okay, so it's rallying off of this low. This is quite a decline here, and so got a long way to go before it's making all-time highs. Here's Google. Again, has a breakdown from a rising wedge, as we would expect, and it's rallied back to that rising trend line. Possibly it's getting ready to start back down. Let's quickly look at the weekly. Again, a lower low than the all-time high. I should say lower. topped in the all-time high. Okay, Meta, Facebook, in a consolidation range here. It's not a bad thing. So it could be moving higher. Let's look at the weekly. Oh, another one. It's still hasn't exceeded the all-time high back in 2021. And we had our first request, symbol request is from Microsoft. It has, I do believe that's the all-time high. It's rallying nicely. Getting kind of overbought, but it's still got a ways to go in this more recent PMO range. Let's look at the weekly. Okay, it's moving into all-time highs, so it's
Looks pretty healthy.
Yeah, in the race with Apple, I think it's going to be taking the lead, and in many ways for some period of time. I think Apple's running into problems just because of the China problems.
Yeah.
Okay, NVDA moving higher in this trading range, and I believe that's heading towards the all-time high. And finally, Tesla, not looking particularly great. Nice today, for rallying at 4% right now. Broke down from this triangle, and really we could say it's in a declining trend channel. Weekly chart looks a lot like Bitcoin, and it's a lot of resistance in this area. Have I forgotten anything?
I don't think you have. I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Did you do nat gas? I see it's one of your tabs.
I'm sorry, which?
Natural gas, UNG.
Okay, yeah, I could do that. It's in a trading range, and coming out of the low part of the range. And let me see, I've got and there we have it. It's scrubbing along here. Ultimately, I think it's going to come alive along with crude oil and other energy stocks. It's just people are going to wake up, run out of all this, green energy stuff, which is not producing. So,
all right, now I think you covered it all.
Okay. Let's see if I've got any questions that need to be answered.
Good one. Looks like
yes, there's a question on GDX chart, and I meant to mention that it's making. Would I say that it's making a reverse head and shoulders? And yes, I would. That's definitely looking like reverse here. It needs to start heading higher, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. I think you talked NVIDIA, but I can talk about it when we do symbol requests as well.
Okay.
I'll give my take on Microsoft, but I don't think I have much more to enlighten after what you talked about.
All righty.
Okay, let me go ahead. We're going to switch gears and go ahead and look at the sectors now. So just some interesting things to note as I was reviewing all of these. These are all of the 11 sectors. And I have the PMO and the StockCharts technical rank on it. So it gives you a really good sense of where these sectors are going, where the strength is. Clearly, the one that is in decline, the one that is struggling right now is energy. And, we're in a pretty much established declining trend now, and the PMO is moving lower. Things are getting a little bit on the oversold side. And we do see that the scooter is trying to make a little bit of a move to the upside. So we'll be keeping an eye on that area for a reversal. But right now, crude oil still looks pretty bearish. So I'm thinking that energy is still going to be under fire. The other one that I noticed right off was actually healthcare. You can see that the PMO is now starting to surge above the signal line. It had topped and now it's back up. So we have a bottom above the signal line. Nice little reversal here. Still a little early in the move to make too many sweeping conclusions about it, but you know, it's kind of a nice little move there since it did really suffer at the end of last week. The strength lies, of course, in technology. When we have a market rallying, that's typically where you're going to see the most action, and that is exactly what we're seeing. It is now getting ready to test some all-time highs. I don't see it having any problem with that at this point, and barring a market decline, we still do need to digest this move. The PMO, like I said, is rising, but look at that StockCharts technical rank. I mean, it's about as high as it can get, and I would expect to see higher prices out of tech. But when we do win, because I think it is a matter of when we do start to see the pullback in the market to digest this particular rally, this is going to be the place that'll probably get hurt the most, or at least certainly be highly sensitive to any decline in the market, as it has been the leader. The other sectors, I mean, I didn't notice anything overly interesting here. I do see that financials, we have a flag formation and it is starting to break out from that flag. I like the way industrials have broken out above key moving averages over here. PMO rising, nice scooter. Materials kind of floating along here, maybe a reverse head and shoulders coming together here. But overall, I think I'd be avoiding the materials sector. Utilities starting to lose ground here, holding the rising trend, but it is quite vulnerable, and the PMO is trying to top beneath the zero line. So I think that would be a sector I would clearly be avoiding right now. Everything else looks pretty healthy. Consumer discretionary looks a little bit like financials with a little bit of a breakout here from a consolidation area. So you're looking at this, I would have to say one of the areas I'd be interested in looking in is healthcare. Consumer discretionary and financials are kind of where I would be looking. Healthcare as far as new momentum. Like I said, it hasn't established a really good uptrend just yet, but it certainly looks like it might be. It's worth a look under the hood. Scooter is very low. So I would say if you're going to get involved in healthcare, I think you've got a pretty good shot here, but you are getting involved in a move very early. Let's go ahead and look under the hood at consumer discretionary and financials. Here is the financials chart. And you can see the flag formation here. We're getting this breakout coming out of this little flag. PMO is now above the zero line. Look at the silver cross index really scooping up nicely here after a bullish shift across the signal line. Golden cross index had a recent shift above the signal line, and participation is very healthy. You've got readings above our 50% bullish threshold here for stocks above their 20 and 50, really close on stocks above the 200. I guess if I had to knock financials a little bit, it would be that relative strength is kind of staying in line with the S&P, moving sideways. We're really not we got a little bit of outperformance here, but it does seem to be kind of moving along sideways with the market, which is fine for now. But if we do get a little bit of a pullback, then this would be sensitive to that. Here is healthcare. We can look at that under the surface. And as you can see, we've got a surge above the signal line for the PMO. We have the silver cross index, though, looking a little bit sketchy here as it moves below its signal line. That's a bearish shift. So again, this would be a sector that if you're involved in it, you're very early to the game. You've got below the 50% threshold on percent stocks above their 20 and 50. The pleasure of working from home. So, you need to get these participation numbers a little bit higher. And I'm not seeing that just yet on healthcare, but it's certainly an interesting place to consider. And where was the other place? Consumer discretionary was also where I wanted to focus some time. Can see that nice little breakout coming from this consolidation area here. We don't have the full breakout though. I mean, it's certainly doing what it's supposed to, but not quite there, breaking out from that cluster. We've got the PMO rising. The Golden Cross Index has not given us that bullish shift across the signal line. And you can see that we still don't have 50% above their 50-day EMA yet. So a little bit of work that needs to be done under the surface for consumer discretionary. So really, when I look at everything, the sector that I'm finding really interesting right now are financials. But I have to say the technology sector, like I said, looking extraordinarily strong under the surface. Look at these percentages. One of the charts I don't know that we talked about, Dad, and you can tell me if we did, was the bias chart. Did we look at that?
I didn't.
Yeah, let's look at the bias chart. Because one of the things we were just talking about that I think is something that we need to talk about is how broad this rally is. Now, we've come out of some very, serious lows here in October, and we've made quite the move to the upside. We're now getting ready to break above that declining tops trend line in the intermediate term. It looks really good, but what's going on under the surface? We're just not seeing the kind of participation we should at this point. I mean, the good news is it's not overbought. So there's certainly room for improvement. That means that we could see this rally continue, but it does make me worry about the veracity of this rally, given that participation did start to shrink even as prices were moving higher. So I think this is indicative of kind of what we saw back here, where really the market needed to move down. We saw this weakness in the broad markets, but the Magnificent Seven kept things afloat. And I'm thinking this is kind of where we're at right now with the Magnificent Seven keeping things afloat, but the rest of the market not really participating like we would want them to. All right, I think that covers it. I'm not going to go into industry groups today. I think we covered the sectors well. It's 9:30, 12:30 Eastern. So I think it's time for me to get into some of these symbol requests so we have plenty of time to look at some 5-minute charts and consider more. Are there any questions in here that happened while I was talking?
There's one. What do you think about RSP versus the S&P 100 versus SPY? Let's say
SPY, yeah.
Okay. RSP is equal weight index versus the cap weighted SPY. Can you pull up a chart of RSP? You've got it there.
Yeah. Okay. Which one do you want?
That's good. That's fine. The problem that I've been thinking about this for some time, and the problem is the RSP, the equal weight index, is rebalanced every quarter, and so it still has the ability to get out of whack, so that it's no longer equally weighted. I don't know why they don't do it some other way that wouldn't do that, but there is a way, which I used to do. I used to maintain an equal weighted index. Gave it up some time ago, but this I don't see a lot of performance difference. You can get a tendency on RSP to overperform on advances, which especially coming out of important lows, and it also can underperform on the downside. In other words, it goes down faster than the S&P or than the SPY. So it's an interesting index to use. It just depends on you've got to keep an eye on it and decide how you're going to shift back and forth between the two if you're concentrating on the S&P 500.
Right.
Okie doke.
Yep. I would make a comment though, looking at this chart, is that we do have a declining relative strength line between RSP and the SPY, and this is indicative of the larger mega caps leading the index. So we're seeing the strength in those large mega caps as the RSP relative strength starts to move lower. I think it's just another sign or piece of evidence that we have to be careful that this rally that we're seeing on the S&P is likely due more to the Magnificent Seven. I mean, look at the tops on the recently. We have rising tops on SPY and declining tops on RSP. So there's something going on under the surface.
Yeah. And by the way, your labels have shifted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And that's the only question we had. So,
all right. Let's go ahead and get into these.
Microsoft is the first one.
Yes.
I think I've covered that pretty well, but
yeah, I'll give you my quickie here on my chart style. Relative strength really well, doing well against the S&P. That was something we didn't see. Stochastics are just sticking right there above 80. RSI is on the overbought side. I mean, if you wanted to be concerned about something, that would be it. But ultimately, Microsoft making new all-time highs here. There's not much that you to not like here on the Microsoft chart.
Okay, LUNG.
And I think somebody corrected that.
Okay.
No, it's not. It is right. That is right. There's one in there that they corrected the symbol, but it's a different person.
Is this a cigarette stock?
I know. Pulmox, no, probably helps those with cigarettes. I like there was a double bottom, but it's already fulfilled with the move to this level. Nice rally though off the 20-day EMA. This is in the healthcare sector. We have a big move today of over 6%. I like the look of the chart. Relative strength could be better. I want to see rising relative strength against the group and against the S&P. I mean, in general, over the last month, there is rising relative strength here, so it's not terrible. The group itself is starting to outperform just a hair. Stochastics turned up in positive territory. I think that the chart looks healthy enough on the bullish side, but let's look at a weekly. I don't know, Dad, what do you think? Doesn't look horrible. It's stuck beneath these moving averages.
Yeah, I don't know this is not a good chart. And I'd like to know more about the company at this point. This is I don't
yeah. Which does remind me, let me give everybody a really quick look over here, is you can get what's called the symbol summary on StockCharts. And if you do the symbol summary, it's going to give you the chart, but it also gives you earnings, when they were, float, share floats. It's now got whether revenue and earnings were hits or misses. But down here, it will tell you about the company itself and give you a link to the company website. So if you did want to do further investigation on a stock that you're looking at, I think the symbol summary is a great way to do it. Okay. All right.
KLAC.
Yes.
For long.
So long overall, I'd say looks okay in the short term, but boy, that weekly chart is a problem. Oh, let's go back to the sharp chart. KLAC, it sounds like a radio station.
Yeah, I think it does.
Um,
I believe it is a local TV.
around here, yeah, LA, probably. That's why I'm recognizing it. Okay. So semiconductors are doing very well. We didn't look at that industry group chart, but I'll tell you right now, they are leading. They're one of the reasons technology is doing so well. And you can see that from this relative strength line for semiconductors. Nice breakout to, I don't know if that's all-time highs or not, but certainly a breakout for new 52-week highs. I like everything going on the chart. You know, it's performing in line with the group. It's not an outperformer as far as the group goes, but you know what? I'm fine with that because the group is doing so well. So let's look at the weekly, and then let's look at a 5-minute candle for trading purposes. All right, I like the breakout. This is new all-time highs that we're looking at. PMO buy signal. Anything that you want to add? I kind of leave the weekly chart as a place for you to comment because I know that's what you primarily watch.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's possible that we're going to have a pullback, but it's in a rising trend channel. That's
Yeah.
at the top of that channel right now.
Yeah. So you are vulnerable to another test of the rising bottoms line.
Right.
But I think it looks pretty good for now. Here's a 5-minute candlestick. This is the chart that I use for trading purposes to get me in and get me out of a stock. So I'm not looking at this chart to determine if I want the stock. I'm here because I want the stock, or I'm here because I want to sell the stock. So if you want to buy the stock, you're looking for a 5-minute PMO crossover combined with a positive RSI. So here's your crossover. Positive RSI was right there. So this was your last buy point. You come to the chart and the buy point's passed, but you can then keep an eye out. The PMO is still rising right now. We know that the buy point came in somewhere around 527.65. Currently, we're at 527.72. So you're right near the prior buy point. So that would be a possible entry. Now, if you want to get out of a stock, if you're here to sell, all you need to do is see a PMO turning down. As soon as the PMO turns down, that's likely going to be a good time to get out. So you could use this if you want to be a day trader. You can use a 1-minute PMO on a 1-minute chart, and all of these rules, if you will, trading rules apply. So buy point now for KLAC.
MDLZ.
Mandalay. I'm here from California, and I don't know how long I called this Mandalays. I don't know why I did that, but yes, it's Mandalay. Okay. We've got a really nice looking chart here. This is actually a prior diamond in the rough from, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's certainly performing as we had hoped it would as a diamond in the rough. PMO is now above the 0 line. We've got stochastics above 80, which looks good. It's certainly a good outperformer amongst the group. The group could be doing better, and it is in consumer staples. So, you know, in general, this isn't the best area to go to because of not resistance, but because of underperformance in comparison to the S&P. And you can see that here, even though it's an outperformer, it's only performing in line with the S&P because its group is doing so poorly. So I think everything looks good on this chart. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the weekly. And the weekly chart looks good. It does look like it's getting ready to come back up to test these all-time highs. RSI positive. Certainly like that rising weekly PMO. If we go to a 5-minute chart, the buy point has passed. That was back here. And even then, it was a little bit of a shaky buy point in that the RSI was already overbought. So when that happens, you know you're probably at the top of that buy point there. You may not be getting in at the best time. because when the RSI is overbought, there's a good chance you're going to see a downturn, but it worked in its favor here. The PMO was correct. RSI was not quite correct. So we trust the PMO. You can see the buy point came in about here. So we are past the buy point on the downside. And it looks like we're going to get a better buy point because that PMO is still headed lower. So you also have a big double top formation here too. So I don't know that I would be a buyer right now. I think that you'll be offered a better buy point later in the day.
PLTR.
Software. PLTR. We've got a nice, looks like a breakout move here from this area of consolidation, kind of a similar look to some of the sectors, really. PMO rising, stochastics above 80, pretty much all of the check marks and all of the boxes that I need when I pick out a diamond in the rough. So I think this looks pretty good. I do like that breakout. Looks like today we're kind of consolidating that big rally that we had on Friday, but looks pretty good for Palantir. Looks pretty good with that PMO crossover buy signal. I would just say that it's on the overbought side, but at the same time, we don't have a huge amount of data here. Might take a little time for this PMO to kind of find its way. So ultimately, I would be happy with the fact that we do have that positive crossover. And look at the scooter. The StockCharts technical rank is right at the top of the zone and has been for months and months and months. So this one has a really good chance of a breakout and a move back up to this level. 5-minute chart. Looks like you're at a decent buy point. It's pretty much consolidating sideways since Friday. PMO is sideways. RSI is still negative, so maybe wait until the RSI were to get positive or the PMO were to kind of give us a little bit more indication that it wants to rise. But, you know, I don't know, that it's kind of consolidating sideways, so I suspect any buy point today will work.
NXE.
Next Gen Energy, NXE, non-ferrous metals. Like I said, materials kind of not that interesting to me, but you know, obviously there are pockets of strength everywhere. This isn't a particularly great pocket of strength, though. When you look at non-ferrous metals, you can see that relatively speaking, they have been in decline against the S&P. So that has put some downside pressure on NXE, even though it is an outperformer, even though it has really done well against the group, it's not able to do very well against the SPY because the group isn't doing so well. We know the sector is doing not great. I mean, it's not doing terribly, but it's not doing much itself. So I would say that this is kind of an area that I'd want to stay out of just in general. But as far as the chart here goes, I see a cup with a handle, kind of a breakout trying to happen here from that particular pattern. It doesn't look bad. I mean, it looks like it should get us a breakout here with that PMO rising right now. Let's look at the weekly chart. I mean, it doesn't look bad.
No, it's at a resistance level right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, that would be the big problem, is we really need it to break out. And I hesitate to say that we're going to get that breakout because the sector and the group itself aren't doing as well as they could be. But I don't think it's a terrible choice either. So if we look at a 5-minute chart real quick, buy point, probably about now. I mean, the PMO's been flat. This is one of those occasions where it's not going to be that helpful on the 5-minute chart. Looks like we had a very volatile morning, kind of moved into a symmetrical triangle type of a formation. Does seem to be breaking out of this declining trend here. So I think you're probably at a decent buy point for it. But I have to say, I'm not super excited about the stock.
RD&T.
Healthcare provider, RadNet. Looks okay. It is holding above those key moving averages right now, even though it's pulling back a little. Performance wise, it is outperforming the market to some degree here, so we can't dock it for that. Stochastics are above 80. The one thing that I think has got me here is the declining trend. I feel like there's still a declining trend that needs to be overcome here. It's trying to, but it's failed. I need to look at a weekly chart. I'm kind of lukewarm about this daily chart. The price action just isn't impressing me right now. Declining trend channel on the weekly chart. It looks like it's at the top of that channel, so it really looks like it's vulnerable to a decline. The PMO is in decline. We do have a scooter that's in what I call the hot zone above 70, but I don't know. I can't get excited about this one.
Okay, FGNU.
FNG, that's the one that got corrected.
Yeah.
All right, this is the FANG index 3 times leveraged. Okay, so number one out of the gate, this is a leveraged fund 3 times. So you need to be considering stop levels that are 3 times what you would normally want to apply. So just keep it in mind that these leveraged types of investments are for very short-term purposes, not for long-term use. So just be careful. I just always want to give that warning when I'm looking at a leveraged ETF. Silver Cross, breakout from this level of overhead resistance, double bottom, rising PMO, stochastics above 80, and certainly it is outperforming here. So I have to say, I mean, I like the chart. Again, I would just be careful because it's leveraged. Let's look at the weekly. Cup with handle is breaking from that declining trend, and the PMO is headed upward. So this does look like a pretty good investment right now, but again, 3 times leverage. So if you like to use a stop of about 5% on this one, you need to plan for a stop of 15%. So position size wisely, and consider this more as a short-term kind of, I wouldn't call it a hedge, obviously, but a short-term booster.
Okay, BA.
All right, Boeing. Just seeing if there was anything to talk about on the 5-minute for that one, and I don't see anything. Sleeping Beauty waking up. It sure does look like it's waking up. We've got a reverse head, left shoulder, right shoulder. Here's your neckline. It's a little bit of a declining neckline, and that was busted today with a big gap up. This looks like a breakaway gap. So it looks like we are going to be headed higher from here. I love the look of the chart. I can't see anything wrong with it at this point. I think you're only, what you could worry about, if anything, is that this could be a reverse island, but this looks like a breakaway gap to me. Nice look here on the weekly chart. The PMO is just now turning back up. The StockCharts technical rank is on the rise. I like Boeing here. I think this is a really good looking chart. And 5-minute chart, I don't think you're going to get a much better buy point. It's been pretty much moving sideways this whole day. It's caused the PMO to move lower. I think that you could wait because the PMO is moving lower, but let's face it, it's been moving lower and price hasn't gone anywhere. It's stayed pretty much in the same area. So I don't know that you're going to be able to get much better buy point. But it might be worth waiting around, see if you couldn't get it a little bit lower at the support level right back here.
Okay, Bug, BUG.
All righty. It's been in a sideways trading room. It's been in a sideways trading range. And you can see that it is getting to the top of the range, which is a little bit worrisome. There's been talk about more ransomware issues. So I know I was kind of looking at this as a possible investment myself. but the trading range and the fact that it's near the top kind of made it a little less exciting for me. I certainly think that we're going to see higher prices here, but I just don't like seeing a triple top here. The top of this range is a little bit, I don't like to get into stocks where overhead resistance is that close. Basically is my thing. But there's no reason why you couldn't do this one. The RSI is positive, the PMO is rising, everything looks pretty good here. Just you're kind of stuck in a range. Let's see the weekly chart. Yeah, I mean, it came out of this low and then it's just not been able to do much. It seems like its time has passed. I would have also expected, given the big rally we had, that I'd see a much more favorable chart than this for the weekly, but we do have the PMO rising. We do have a nice rising scooter. I don't know, OBV is in decline though. I can't get really excited about this. I like that leveraged one, I have to say, better than I like this one right now. I'd be curious what HACK looks like, HACK. It's a similar one. Yeah, it's in a similar situation, sideways trading range. And its weekly chart, I have to say I like the look of HACK just a little bit better. It doesn't seem like it's kind of rolling. It seems like it's moving higher here. The StockCharts technical rank is higher. So I think if we're going as this or that in cybersecurity, I kind of like HACK better than I like Bug.
Okay, DUOL.
Duolingo. My husband uses this every single day. I did not know that they had a stock. They do an app that basically helps you learn a language. And if you use it every day, you're supposed to, sort of like a Rosetta Stone, be able to pick it up, but it's a little more, a little less intense than that. I like the look of it. I mean, the group itself, software, has been doing well. This one has really started to outperform the group, and that has consequently given it an opportunity to outperform the SPY. Big breakaway gap. Looks like we're consolidating that move, possible move higher from here. RSI is really overbought. So I'd say right now, this would be more watch list for me because it does appear ready to digest this move a little bit more, possible pullback. Want to see that RSI get back down below 70. And that will happen with consolidation or a bit of a decline. But I think it's a pretty good looking stock. What's the weekly look like? This one's been around forever. I can't believe I did not know that they had a stock. Nice looking PMO. Big flagpole, so possibly if we're getting that flag getting formed right now above the high, the all-time high. So I think it looks pretty good. It's just kind of extended, I think, would be my issue with it. 5-minute PMO is rising. Looks like we're at about the buy point right here. We had a better buy point, obviously, earlier in the day. There's the crossover, but then we had to wait for the positive RSI, and that occurred right here. So our prior buy point was 206.82. Now, you can do, this is the conservative buy point, and that's why I often say, well, we're at a buy point because, you know, maybe it isn't particularly right there like we had it, but you know, we have to make that determination and look where the prior one is and then determine whether the current price is nearby.
Okay, here's a question you ought to answer before we go. We're getting down to about 2 minutes. Can
Okay.
I find your charts on StockCharts to analyze on my own? Where do I find your charts?
Aha. Well, you find them on our website is where you find them. So all of our subscribers to DecisionPoint, we have 2 subscriptions, the DecisionPoint Alert and DecisionPoint Diamonds. And with either subscription, you get access to our chart lists. Let me get back to our blogs and links page. And here are those chart lists. So the under the hood are pretty much those ones we were looking at for the sectors and select industry groups. And the DP alert chart list, this is what Carl started with, where we were looking at the market in general and Bitcoin and dollar. That's all going to be in the Decision Point alert chart list. And then we also have the ETF tracker chart list. This is just the primary ETFs, kind of covers all of the major industry groups and is a way to get in there and maybe find a ETF you didn't know about that covers part of the market that you like. And that's where you're going to find our charts, and you can review them. You click on them, and you have to be a member. And then you can go through them this way. So there you have it. That's how you get to our charts.
All right, we have 1 minute.
All right, I think that I'm going to close things out here. We got to just about every one of our symbol requests, so I'm really pleased about that. Let's see what the market's doing real quick right now. All right, we're down now, but that rising or that declining tops trend line definitely being challenged today. It'll be interesting to see where it finishes. All right, that's all we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed your time in the trading room. If you'd like to join us live, do look for that link to register below this YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube. And that is all we have for you. Again, Carl Swenlin and Erin Swenlin from DecisionPoint.com. Good luck and good trading.